Forget what you know about mindset, hustle, and personal development, because this episode rewires it all. Dr. Alok Trivedi, aka Dr. Rewire, is one of the world's leading authorities on human performance and emotional biohacking. His clients, Fortune 500 execs, elite athletes, founders, and high performers who are done with burnout and ready for real transformation. His method, 27 plus years of research, 92 proven brain rewiring techniques, and a simple mission: help people stop chasing success and start actually living it. In this episode, I get my brain DNA results live. We unpack why I redline my nervous system, why most biohacks are actually hurting you, and how to finally build a routine that's made for your actual brain, not just the one TikTok said you have. This one, it's next level. It's science, it's soul, it's strategy, and it might just change your life. Welcome to Coffeez. Quick break. If you're a loan officer closing deals every month and still capped at 150 basis points, you're leaving serious money on the table. At eMortgage Capital, top producers are taking home up to 400 basis points with better tech, faster closings, and full control. No junk fees, no red tape, just real comp. Hit up joiningmortgagecapital.com and stop building someone else's empire.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for flying in. I'm excited for a couple reasons today. One, we're going to go over my own results of my DNA test. And two, you're going to just be dropping so much wisdom on folks about, what they can do to really improve their health, rewire their own brains, and, improve their cognitive function.
I think so. I think that the listeners are going to be able to take some actionable tools to be able to take into their life to get more energy, be able to do things they want to do, get better sleep, and ultimately perform better. That's why we're here today.
We're going over this. This is your results for today?
That's my copy.
Okay. Start every episode with, and this is something I'd be fascinated with you specifically about, is what is your morning routine?
Yeah. So for me, it's changed quite a bit over the years. I was the type of individual, like many entrepreneurs, right? I run businesses, have my own business, have businesses of my own. It's like, I got to do more. I got to make sure I'm so on top of the game. Got to have everything right. And I realized that was actually causing me more ailments and challenges than actually really getting me to a place of optimization. So my daily routine changes. And what I mean by that, it changes day to day, meaning that not every day has to have the same routine. There's certain days I want to turn the body, the system on in a higher fashion, and there's certain days I want to turn the body off and get it to be more in a calmer state. Because we can't be on all the time, right? Like one of the things that entrepreneurs I got to cold plunge every day, I got to train every day. That's actually not healthy for you. What I've realized over the years in this concept of neuroflexibility, which we'll talk more and more, is that you have to be able to understand when you turn the body on and off. So to answer your question, the days that I really turn on the system, every day I start my morning with a 5 to 10 minute meditation to get me into my own flow state, to get my mind in the state of gratitude. Tony calls it priming. I call it rewired thinking, rewired reset. And so I sit with this rewired reset every morning and just center myself. Next thing I do is I go and I get I start my day with protein and oats every day before I go train. And then I go to the gym. I spend 90 minutes pretty much in the gym. I do 30 minutes of training, lifting, and then I do 30 minutes of cardio. That's my morning. And then I'll come back and I'll actually do some rewiring work on my brain, setting myself up for the day, which usually takes me about 15, 20 minutes at this point. That's my day to day.
Your rewiring work, what's that look like?
Yeah, I look through my days.
Created this.
Yeah, so I look at it, most people are going into their entrepreneurial day thinking, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to look for all these positive expectations. That's stupid. Bottom line, that's actually a stupid idea for your brain and your health. What I do is I look and say, how centered can I stay? Look, the reality is we're always going to have challenges. We're always going to have things that are coming at us. But the more we can pre-predict the challenges and navigate how we handle those challenges, the more those challenges are preventing us from getting us off course and staying off-centered. So what I do is I look and say, all right, let's not be positively delusional. What are the challenges that are going to hit me today? Well, I've got to have this conversation with an employee. I got to have this conversation with a salesperson. I've got to, whatever it is, all the challenges, you list them out. And then I sit and say, okay, how is this going to help me grow the company? How is this going to help me grow my brand? How is this going to help me gain more wisdom in my life? And all of a sudden, this big, daunting, challenging task that's releasing more cortisol in my body now becomes calmer, more grounded, and something that it's an action step I walk through. So I call it active visualization at the same time, because you're actually seeing what's going to happen and then controlling that environment, at least organizing that environment so you don't get stressed out about it.
Active visualization. Okay. And is that also in a meditative position that you're doing that?
No, that could be me and just a piece of paper working through it. That's very cognitive. I sit down and I say, okay, what are my challenges? I list it out. I have a manual that I've never actually published or printed for anybody, but I have my own Rewire manual that I've created for myself to keep control of my mind. And it's something that my people are asking for. Like, I want that rewired manual. How do you do that? Like, so it's like I literally have my things listed out. And one of the biggest things on it in the morning is, okay, here are the challenges I'm going to expect. How does this connect to my mission? And how's going through this challenging connecting my mission? Because there's a saying in neurology and the way that the brain is designed, if it's on the way, your brain coordinates and coordinates the nerves to get you to move forward. If it's in the way, you feel it that's something that's stuck and something hard and an obstacle you have to go through. So in order for you to be able to move towards what you want, every obstacle, challenge, circumstance has to be driven to take you towards where you ultimately want to go. That's called in the brain, it's the telencephalon, or the telos as the Greek would call it, or in language is prefrontal cortex in the science.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like what you're doing right now is just so next level. So where was this all birthed from? How did you come up with this idea to just rewire the brain?
You know, I started working with patients. And I started seeing with patients that their bodies weren't healthy. And they would come in, and I was fortunate enough to build one of the largest healthcare centers in the world. I was seeing 1,250 people a week, which was a lot of people and physically really, really draining. And what I realized is that most people that were coming in were having problems, but they were psychological and not physiological. And people would come in complaining about their mortgage payments or complaining about relationships, and their back would hurt, their neck would hurt, their shoulders would hurt. And I started developing processes and tools. I started my career as a physical therapist, went on to chiropractic and then functional medicine, functional neurology, and started putting all these pieces together. And what I realized is that I wonder if we can balance the brain through asking questions. And so I did. And so I started asking patients. I said, instead of me touching your body and doing all this therapy, what if I just ask you some questions? Because I've always believed that the power that made the body heals the body. We just have to give it the right environment to do so. So what if I get you to think in a certain way, in a certain fashion, and balance your brain through thinking? And all of a sudden, people would get 80, 90% better with their back pain. Their shoulder pain would go away. And as time has progressed, I've been able to help cases, all types of cases of irritable bowel disease, Crohn's disease, digestive problems, diabetes, type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I've seen cancer dissipate. I'm not claiming to heal any of that. I'm not claiming to do any of that. I'm just saying when the body is able to be put into a state of balance, you have the ability to heal in such tremendous ways. And so as that has come along, I've kind of been able to develop these tools and processes, but I had to go through my own journey of life to become my own patient, so to speak, as well. And I went through a divorce that was pretty challenging. I don't know any divorce that isn't. And in that, I was stuck. And I was biohacking, Joe, before it was biohacking. Like, I was doing intermittent fasting, and I had a lemon to eat for 4 days. Not because I wanted to, because I had no money. I'd lost everything. So I was intermittent fasting before it was cool. And I did. And I said, okay, I'm going to sit down and figure it out. And I went through this whole process of journey to figure out the process of rewiring myself. But I had created a belief in my brain, Joe, that you could have love or money, but not both. And the brain is not designed for happiness. It's not designed for abundance. It's designed for survival. And so I was going to survive without money unless I changed the way I thought. And so I sat down that night and I rewired my brain for the first time. And I'd been making the calls. I've been doing the work. Like, you're in, the industry you're in. I was in the sales industry at some level, and I was making 200 phone calls a day, doing what you're supposed to do, dialing for dollars. Even as a doctor, I was doing these things.
Everything is sales. Whether you're a doctor, you're a lawyer,
this is it.
Mortgage originator.
But this was in a training company. It wasn't even a practice at the time. But I wasn't making a single sale. 3 days later, after I rewired my brain, I made my first sale. I made $180,000. I was like, that's interesting. I went back and rewired my brain again. 2 days later, I made $80,000. Rewired my brain again. 3 days later, I made another $110,000. And I said, there's something to this. And then I developed now 122 different processes and tools and ways to be able to hack the brain, to be able to create and rewire it to bring it back to its most powerful state. And now I've been traveling the world helping people get to that state and helping their minds and bodies get better.
That is awesome. And when did you position from rewiring for money to rewiring for health?
I was working with entrepreneurs and they think they want money. Right? They think they want money and they're chasing money. But what I realize is that what ultimately everybody wants is their health. And I realize there's 5 pillars of what I call unshakable health. And the first pillar is an unshakable mind. Second is an unshakable diet. Third is an unshakable body. And fourth, unshakable sleep. And finally, it's unshakable wealth. But most entrepreneurs are doing it backwards. They lose their mind, right? They're chasing wealth, losing their mind, losing their diet, losing their body, losing their sleep, trying to go after money. And when they get their money, they want to get back their mind, their body, their sleep, their diet. The reality is that money is a part of life, but if you don't have your health, you don't have your money either. That's the reality of it, right? And we always use Steve Jobs as an example, but it is a very good example. So you need all of that in order to ultimately live both inspired, fulfilled, and I think to live the healthiest state of your life. And so we made this pivot to health for that reason, really hard, because I realized that if I don't teach people how to actually really be healthy, I saw entrepreneurs burning out. I saw entrepreneurs losing their families. I saw entrepreneurs living in anxiety and stress, not being able to sleep. And they think they want more money. And all I realized I was doing is perpetuating the problem versus getting to the solution.
What an incredible journey. And, thank you for rewiring for health, because that's just so much more important than money. I mean, money just goes. The most important thing we got is our health.
I think so, right? You and I were talking before the show. It's like we can make more money, but you can't make another. You can't. Well, I guess you can make another part of your body with 3D printing coming out, but but I think but you understand the context, right? It's like time is not coming back.
What part of your identity do you feel like did you have to dismantle to find this real fulfillment?
All of it. All of it. I always like to say my divorce was the hardest time of my life, but it was also the greatest time of my life, right? As they say, right? I like to say, when people sit and say your mess is your message, I don't think your mess is your message. I think the solution to your mess is your message. And the solution I had to do was become the person I ultimately wanted to be. And that was to be the guy who educated. And I think, when people talk about mission, purpose, their vision, your purpose is where you are, what you're doing at this current moment. But your mission of what you want to do in your life, what you want your life to mean, to represent, everybody knows it. The people sit and say that, oh, I don't know what it is. No, you're just afraid to say it. I had to actually say it to myself. This is what I want my life to mean. This is what I want my life to be. Because if I don't live it, no one else is going to. And it allowed me to actually step into that and using my kids as my motivation, not my excuse. Saying I can't because of, well, I have to because of, right? I have to show them that's possible. And my divorce was that place where I lost that identity of, being a solo practitioner, right? Not a solo, I had a big clinic, but being in practice. And I sold my practice, got rid of it, and saying, okay, I'm moving into the space of an educator and a business person and that. And that's really where I wanted to be. I knew that identity of myself had died, and I had to let the next identity show up. If that makes any sense whatsoever, I hope it does. But that's kind of what was the big thing, is I had to make a shift from a practitioner to an educator.
Now what do you say your purpose is?
Now my purpose, I don't know if I have a new identity. I don't know if I call it that, but it's still the same in education. I want to help people live the most inspired, ultimate life what they want, and that's going to be when they actually truly understand their health. That's why I created the brain DNA test. That's why I create the protocols, the tools, the seminars, events. It's to help people get over their own mind, that they don't even realize they have a limitation. They're stuck. They're working harder, burning out their adrenals, getting more tired, creating more chaos in their life, when the solution to it is just to rewire the brain in one day, clear it all out, go forward, and live your life. Because you can. There's a science to this stuff now. It's not arbitrary. It's not a guessing game. It's not woo-woo or any of that anymore. There's a system that you can take any person, rewire anything.
What a perfect segue to what we're going to do next. So I participated in the Rewire test, the brain DNA test, and I haven't looked at my brain DNA results yet. I've been waiting for you to fly in from Chicago to do this. I just got them on Friday, so thank you. Perfect timing.
Yep.
Let's do this. Let's dive into my brain DNA. And I'm a little worried to go over it, in front of the general public. But
No, you're great.
I'm ready
you're
to
great.
do this.
You're great. But before we go through the brain DNA test, let me explain what it's testing. Right?
Here we go. The brain DNA test, by the way, right here.
There we go. The
Boom.
brain DNA test. Okay.
Right here. Pretty thick test results, but we're going to bang through this pretty quick.
So what we're doing in it is there's a concept I've created and I've coined called the term neuroflexibility.
Okay.
Neuroflexibility means that you can turn your brain on and you can turn your brain and body off. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is live in a state of homeostasis. That's balance, right? We use that term a lot. But when we become too stressed, when we become too anxious, when we have all this pressure, our society, all this stimulation, EMF, LED walls, all this stuff turns our brain on, and some people can shut their brains off where others can't. And I did all this work in the brain and to realize that, you know what? Why can some people do this? Why can some people not do this? Some people have these parts of the brain that shut off easier, and some people have shut on easier. And we have these things called neurotransmitters. And there's big buzzwords, so I want to use them, called dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, glutamate. These are the things that turn your brain on. When we have neurotransmitters more like serotonin or GABA or TPH, these are the things that turn the brain off. And what we're doing on a day-to-day basis is turning on and off the brain, how it's responding to life. If we can naturally turn the brain on easier, fantastic. Someone who can do that easy is going to be naturally motivated, is going to be more inspired to get up in the morning and do the things that they want to do. Their need for a morning routine is not necessary for everybody. It's the same. For someone who can't turn their brain off is going to say, I lay in bed and I can't go to sleep. I'm sitting there thinking about all the things I got to do tomorrow. My brain just doesn't shut off. Or, for example, someone who has a hard time or whose always brain is on, they're going to get up at 4 in the morning and their brain is going to go ping, 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 ping. I got to think about all the things I'm doing because they're all stressed out. All of this inability to balance and adapt, this neuroflexibility, creates illness and disease. And so the purpose of the test is not to diagnose you, but it's to give you a blueprint of how you should live that's going to optimize your health. For example, if your brain turns on so much easier, then you are going to activate what's called your sympathetic nervous system. If your brain shuts off easier, you're going to be easier to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Both of these have to be in balance no matter what you do to live optimally. To have true longevity, you have to have these in balance. If not, we're taking supplements, pills, potions, hacks to manipulate that. But first, we need to know where we're starting, right? For example, I'll use cold plunging as a great example. Some people should not cold plunge every day because it activates your norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine neurotransmitters. But what if you already make it naturally high? Then what you're going to do is you're going to put your car in a red line versus at an RPM or 5, 6, or 7. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Most of us as entrepreneurs, what we're doing is we're doing these biohacking things to redline our body. And that red line creates cortisol. And that cortisol creates inflammation. Inflammation creates illness. So when I came up with this idea in this test, I said, what if I get to the core cause and the root state of someone's health and then use biohacking to implement, to balance and optimize someone's system? That's the purpose of the test. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I wasn't the greatest scientist.
You get it. My point is that if your brain is naturally ability to turn on or turn off, you want to be able to dance in both.
Okay.
If you're too rigid,
and achieve this homeostasis.
just the balance of flow, right? This is the flow state. If any side's too rigid, there's no flow. That's what we want to do, to make sure that we're in the flow. Make sense?
Gotcha.
So in brain performance, we look at 4 pillars. What I realize is that you look at mindset motivation, and there's certain neurotransmitters look at that mindset motivation. Then we look at your ability to connect, your oxytocin. You've heard of oxytocin, right? A father, child, mother, child connection. That's important. But what I found is the ability to connect to yourself. Oxytocin is more about the ability to connect to yourself than just people around you. Third, we look at is your stress response. How do you handle stress? Naturally, do you handle stress well? Is it easier for you or is it difficult for you? This is an important part of the process as well. And fourth is your ability to sleep and recover. All of these work together. There's no one thing that's better, one thing's worse. Everything works in a conjunction and a process to make you, to optimize you. So let's go through the test and explain what it means. Sound good?
Let's dive in.
What we're testing here is the SNPs, the gene SNPs, on which are correlated to your mindset and motivation. So the first thing we look at is your mindset motivation score, right? And this mindset motivation score, you naturally are really good naturally. Mindset motivation.
I mean, you have no choice when you're a CEO.
Well, the thing is, you'd be surprised, right? You are a CEO because you're naturally motivated. It's a very big difference. You have the ability to have this, and so you have a 65% ability to motivate. So this is what turns your brain on, okay? This is mindset motivation is neurotransmitters like dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine. This is the part that says, okay, I get up in the morning, I go. I'm ready. I'm active. My brain is moving.
Yeah,
Does this make sense?
Yeah, I wake up at 5:30, 5 o'clock, and it's like my feet hit the ground and I'm running.
Right.
You know?
That's because of this exact level, the mindset motivation
So do you
level.
get tests where it's like 10% or 15%?
So I'll give you my test, okay? My test is 33%.
So you need like a shake up in the morning.
No, I don't need a shake up in the morning. I need more work on my mind than you do naturally. I have to work that morning routine you asked me about. If I don't do that, I will naturally turn into a blob. You see my point? Because it's about, this is what you're naturally born with, but then what hacks do you need to do to be able to optimize your body?
But I can get this to 100%?
You can. This is never going to change, but the lifestyle that I'm going to put in front of you is going to get you to function more at 100%. Yes, right? Because you have what's called epigenetics. Epigenetics means the things that you do to biohack, right?
Yeah.
Like exercise, diet, lifestyle, sleep, the foods that you eat, the coffee that you drink, all these things, right? So someone who has a higher level of mindset motivation, that means your sympathetic nervous system turns on and your body's ready to go. Example, you get up in the morning, you're ready to go, no big deal, no problem. You have energy through the day. You probably lay in bed at night and your brain doesn't shut off. You've got things going on. You're always analyzing, you're thinking through things, and you're assessing circumstances. And you get an idea and you bounce and you move. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
That is your personality because of this DNA. Your brain says, I'm ready to go, let's go. And then you add in, okay, now I got to do these things to be healthy because that's going to optimize me. Certain things, yes. You naturally have that ability. If I did it, I'd get up in the morning like, oh man, what do I want to do? What is it I do now? I'm tired. My brain won't do it naturally because I don't make dopamine as easy. I don't do those things easily. So I have to do more work.
So this will be like this forever till I die, or like
yeah,
when
that's
does
it.
slow down?
That's your DNA.
So I will always be just bouncing off the walls.
No. So that's where caffeine comes in. That's where these stimulants come in. Okay? When you start taking a stimulant in your body, you're putting more the system to turn on, which puts it more into the red line. So when you're drinking caffeine, putting neurostimulants, energy drinks, not that I have a problem against them, at the right time, at the right usage. If you overuse it especially, you're going to put your body into a red line. And then your system is going to redline, cortisol is going to release, stress and inflammation follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So we look
I
at
don't do
it.
energy drinks though. But
Sorry?
I don't do energy drinks.
Whatever the case, you understand my point though, right? But for someone like you, I would not recommend you do exercises like HIIT. I would not recommend that you do high intensity training every day, by no means. Something like CrossFit for you would not be the best solution. It would not be the best solution for you.
I do HIIT, but I do weight train. I do HIITs about 2 to 3 times a week, and then heavy weight training.
I would bet you
4 to
if
5.
you toned it down a bit, if you weight trained 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, heavy, lift. I want you to lift, for sure I want you to lift. But if you did light walks and low zone 2 cardio 3 days and you did your HIIT 1 day a week, you're going to get better gains and better performance. Because your nervous system is not going to be on burnout. When you do HIIT, you are putting your body into an active state. That sympathetic turns on. It's going to rev, right? So if you look at the protocol that's listed out there, it says you the exercise recommendations, right? The exercise recommendation, light swimming 30 to 40 minutes, weight train 3 to 4 times a week, no problem. But I want you to adjust intensity and actually go much more lighter. Adding a thing of yoga once a week, watch your mind just clear out. It'll completely clear out, and your brain clarity is going to change. because of this. Because your nervous system is going to start to regulate because of that.
This brain healthy diet applies to pretty much everybody.
It does. There's certain parts of it, though. Certain people will be, certain recommendations will be if they need more serotonin, they need more tryptophan. But a whole food diet is the key to the bigger part of it. But protein levels, depending on your protein level as well, depending on your brain and what levels you're at. So it seems like it's the same. No, it's not. It's actually much more specific to an individual. So let's go to your relationships and connection. You excel here, my friend. I would bet you that your team, your staff, your employees, your kids, the people in your life love you.
Yeah, that's one thing that God definitely blessed me with is the ability to create relationships.
Yes, you are brilliant at it. Because if you look at your oxytocin level, the OXTR gene SNP, you actually have you had 100% on your ability to connect with people. Now, we don't ask our exes and ex-spouses. That's not who we ask, right? That's not the person to talk to here. But on a general basis, you actually do really, really well with your ability to connect with people. Right? That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I flew across the country because I connected with you.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, would you come out? Yeah, I'd come out for you, Joe, right? Right? I don't do that for everybody, but it's because your ability to connect with people, and that's what makes you such a great CEO.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't even know you can. There's a test for that, but that's pretty amazing, and it hits the nail on the horn. And I think that's one of the only things that I've been blessed with, but I didn't know it's one of the 4 pillars.
No, you're blessed with all of them. That's the cool thing. That's the thing, right? If we go to stress response, now this is where you don't really do as well, right? Your ability to respond to stress, you're at 43% in your ability to respond to stress. Okay. On the tests that I've done, the average I would sit and say is probably in the 50 to 60 range in the ability. You're a little bit lower in that. So when you get stressed, your brain turns on and you have a hard time shutting it off.
Yeah.
And you will overanalyze, you'll overthink, and you'll even move yourself into what personal development likes to call the paralysis of analysis at some component. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And because of that, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to sit and say, should I do this? Should I do that? And you're going to second guess yourself all day long. And that second guessing yourself is because when you get stressed, you take it out on yourself and even sometimes the people that you love at the same token. Would you agree with that?
Definitely on myself, but I've found myself always seeking ways to de-stress.
Yes.
Which cause vices, which interrupt my relationship with with God,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a constant battle for me, just to because ultimately I'd love to live like a monk, but that's impossible because I stress out too easy.
Well, that's what it is, right? At a 43% score, right? One of the things that I would tell you that's important to include in your lifestyle is that component, right? Instead of let me biohack and do everything to do more, one of the things that I've got to train you to do and help you do, and I will, is to shut it off, tone it down. Because you're going to perform better when you allow that side of your brain to be activated. You're going to handle stress differently, allowing some meditation, some of the Rewire protocols. I'll work with you on some of the Rewire meditations, things like that, to bring into your system. You're going to find that the whole system starts to calm down and re-regulate. And this gotta go mentality won't be that. It'll be like, you know what? There's a flow, and I'm in that flow, and there's that balance state. Right now, when things come at you, it becomes, okay, I gotta de-stress. What if you didn't have to de-stress? You could just allow the flow be the flow, so you don't have to actively think about de-stressing. That's more the place of really healthy living. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's more of it. Which really leads to our fourth and final component is your ability to sleep and recover.
This is a terrible score.
This is not the best of scores. This is not the best of scores, right?
Wow.
This is a 23. What this tells me is you have a GAD1, which is your GABA neurotransmitter. It doesn't turn on. So remember I was saying, it's like, cool, I'm a CEO. I can go out and do things. But when I go home at night, I'm really good at connecting, but I'm always in my head. I can't get out of my head, and I can't get my brain to shut off. You'll lay in bed. You'll try to do hacks. You'll need melatonin, or you try to do all these things to try and shut that brain off. But I would suspect that the quality of your sleep struggles.
Yeah, I mean, today was a great score. I got an 84%. Yesterday was a 73. There's days I'll get 65s, 70. I think they sent me my quarterly report today, and I think I averaged like a 75 or 80.
I averaged 96.
I've gotten one. My highest in the quarter was a 93.
I average 96.
So how do I do that?
Well, that's what we got to do. That's what we got to. And this component of sleep, and I'm glad there's so much research being done. I don't know what system you're using to measure it, right?
I'm the same one. We're on the same one.
The Aura or the Ultra Human, or
I'm using the Aura.
Aura. Okay, great.
Are you using the Aura?
I use the Ultra Human.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah.
There was a study. There's a new company out of India.
Yeah, they're really good. You can get them. They're starting to make a lot of movement. I like their testing in that, and I like the stimulation response. But at home, I have the 8 sleep bed as well.
What's that?
The 8 sleep mattress. You haven't heard of that? Oh man, it's so good. I tell you, that's the best sleep hack I could ever recommend. And I'm not affiliated with them. Nothing. I have no contact with them.
Isn't it like a $40,000 mattress?
No. It's $2,000. It's $2 to $3,000, something like that. But it's a cover, and it adapts to the body
goes
temperature.
on the mattress?
It goes right on the mattress topper. And the temperatures change, and it vibrates, get you if you're snoring to move. My snoring has gone down tremendously. But I've lost a bunch of weight and everything with it too. But on average, I never had a problem sleeping because my brain turns off easy, but I don't turn on as easy. So I have to do more work in the morning to wake up. You have to do more work at night to shut off. You see the difference?
Yeah.
That's the customization of our health that we have to understand in this biohacking game, is that, Joe, you don't have to do as much in a morning routine. What I need you to do is an evening routine.
Yeah, my morning routine is like clutch, even though I've been like dialing it in for a while.
No, we got to get that evening routine. That
I don't
morning
have
routine.
an evening routine.
This is my point, right? That evening routine is going to be more important for you to rebring the morning routine. You know how they say, like, what's the key to going to sleep? It's the morning, right?
Yeah.
Like when you get outside and you get your sunlight the first thing in the morning, that sets the circadian rhythm for when you go to sleep at night. Sure, absolutely true. Okay, what's going to set up your morning routine is your evening routine. It's contrarian to what people think. Go out, have a big dinner, and have a couple tequilas. Let me know how your morning routine goes. It's going to suck. It's going to suck.
I mean, ever since I went to Brian Johnson's summit, and I've just been trying to really mitigate the time, my last meal.
Yeah.
And when I do have a late last meal, like we just finished the Great Lent Fast, and a lot of the times I'd be having late meals, and it would always throw off my meals. Even if it was a late, like a vegan meal at the end of the night, it's like 1 hour before bed, still mess me up.
Yeah, so that's because of your system. That's because of your system. If I'm looking at your DNA, you fasting is easy. You fasting is easy because you digest food in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is called a rest and digest. So a diet like yours and a lifestyle like yours is you want to make sure that you doing carbs is not a great thing because your parasympathetic doesn't come on too high. You are sympathetic easily. So more of a carnivore type diet or a keto diet with low carb, still having carbs. I'm not a no carb guy, but having your carbs in the morning rather than later is better for you. Also, when you look at your evening meal, it's got to be light. Your heaviest meals have to be in the morning by far. But I would recommend highly is you be careful with the idea of over fasting. Because you over fasting is going to create insulin resistance faster. Meaning people like insulin resistance when you fast? Exactly. Because when you fast, you're depleting glycogen out of your muscles.
I never really truly fast. I have a protein shake to kind of kick things off before the gym, but
It's great. In the morning?
yeah, in the morning, right before my workouts.
Do you put any carbs in it?
No.
That's the problem. A lot of people are taking protein shakes in the morning because they think, okay, I'm going to work out in a fasted state. Problem is that when you work out in a fasted state, in that you don't actually replenish the glycogen and your body's working in a sympathetic state and you put more stress on the body. That's why you don't get the gains that you're looking for, depending on the body, right? If I went to work out in a fasted state, it'd be okay for me. It wouldn't be as good. But having a little bit of carbs in the morning before you work out is actually going to give you better results. You're going to hold on to that muscle tissue, which is the key. You hold on to the muscle tissue and you burn fat at the same time. Because when you exercise, all that glycogen, all the sugar is going to go right into the muscles, right? You have a hard time shutting your brain off at night. You have a hard time digesting food. I would bet that someone with this type of a DNA, you're in your 40s right now, digestive issues is something you want to think about, right? It's something that you really want to protect your digestive system. You really want to make sure that when you have an overactive sympathetic, it could be what some people will call high blood pressure. could be a thing with it, because pressure in the arteries happens because of fat and tissue or homocysteine, but it also happens when you're stressed. It's a muscle, it tightens up. And so that can create high blood pressure. All of these things is to understand that I'm not diagnosing anything, nor am I saying this is going to happen. But what I'm saying is that when we don't have this neuroflexibility and live in that state, illness becomes the symptom of an imbalanced body.
What is a good night routine?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So someone like you, right? I don't want to, because it's not generic. This is what I'm saying to everybody. We all sit and say we're all unique human beings. Everybody's different, but we give everyone the same protocols. It doesn't make any sense. Healthcare is personalized. Your life is personalized. So someone with your protocol, what time do you normally go to bed or try to go to bed?
10 o'clock.
Okay, good. 10 o'clock is good. I would say 8 o'clock, start shutting everything down. I would do an evening meditation for 30 minutes. Now you have 4 kids too, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard. Like,
it's harder. I get it.
And I co-parent, and I'm in 2 houses, and I'm like, I got activities, I got sports, I got this, I got that.
That's difficult. I get it. My son plays soccer. I was in Chicago in 40-degree weather for a game that went till 10:30, 10:45 at night. I was like, I never do that. But that's what time his game went till. I was like, this is crazy.
That was a baseball game?
Soccer.
Soccer game?
Soccer game. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. But it is what it is, right? So most of the time. But if you can do, and I also sit and say, don't do anything 100%. Do the 90-10 rule.
Yeah.
What that means is try and get it 90% of the time. 10%, it's life. Things are going to happen.
Yeah. So an evening meditation.
An evening meditation. Taking your day and whatever challenges you had in the day, how did that serve your life? That's a rewire meditation. Because you're looking at it and saying, everything that's happened, you're now integrating it. I don't want you to meditate to disassociate. I want you to meditate to integrate.
Meditate to integrate.
Meditate to integrate, because so many people are doing meditation to separate. Oh, I have this stress. Let me detach from it. No. You don't want to detach. You want to bring that in and integrate as a part of your life, because there's a lesson in it.
Yeah. I always look at everything in life, every challenge as lesson and as a hurdle.
That's great.
It's a stepping stone.
I agree completely. So 30 minutes of that, calming music, calming your mind. Definitely red light glasses are going to be huge for you. I don't know if you wear like blue blockers or something like that.
Yeah, but wear them at night at home?
Yeah. Definite light to restrict this blue light that comes along. Super important. I would sit and say definitely don't eat late at night. That's another big thing. I would sit and say that, obviously turn your TV, phone, all that stuff off after about 8:30, right? And I think Brian Johnson's that way too. I think
Brian Johnson has that. He's the same thing. He's got the blue light blockers on at night in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Which I never understood the purpose of that.
Because what you're doing is you're preventing the blue light from going into your eyes, which is what turns on the nervous system. Your brain already turns on naturally, easily. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to regulate that so it's not always on. Now it's time. You're trying to turn the body to say, hey, it's time to shut off, because that's not as easy for you. So from a biohacking standpoint, you don't need to turn your body on easily. You already have that. You have to do the things that shut your brain off. Recovery, leg compressions. Do you have those compression things at home?
No.
Those would be good for you.
Just put those on?
Yeah, just put those on.
Those are like, what are those? Like massage?
Yeah, what they do is they just move the lymphatic tissue out of your body. And so what they do is just leg compressions, get the body to relax. Those are super important. Something else these types of parasympathetic stimulators. There's different companies, no affiliation. I have no contact with any of them, but Pulsetto's one. That's a good one.
I was going to look at Pulsetto. Before I bought Pulsetto, I wanted to try something on Amazon that just kind of stimulates here, and it just sends a shockwave. It's a little uncomfortable.
What it's doing is this is the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
Okay. And the whole thing, whether you do meditation, whether you not, whatever sound you make, you're stimulating the vagus nerve. And when you stimulate the vagus nerve, it calms everything down. So what all of these devices, in essence, anxiety devices, you'll see them. Now that I've said that, you're going to be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. All they're trying to do is exactly what I'm doing here. Is saying, you know what? Your system is too high. Let me turn this part of the system out so that shuts down. So they're saying, let's turn the parasympathetic on by vibrating what's called the vagus nerve, and this thing goes zzz, 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 and now the whole body starts to calm down.
Yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit. The one I bought, I don't know.
Maybe that one's a little bit too strong for you.
Yeah.
In the settings. Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I tried it, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. I mean, I wore it a couple times. It was basically a neck massager that just had this. Put
Got it. Okay. I use Pulsetto. I have one at home. My girlfriend, I got her the Apollo. She just sits Apollo. She's like, she just drops.
Apollo?
Apollo's one on her wrist that she likes.
And that's a vibrating.
Yeah, it's got these different settings. I haven't studied it too deeply, but it has these different settings to activate her parasympathetic nervous system more for her. Because based on her brain DNA, she was super active with this, right? Her brain is super active, so I had to get it to calm down. My daughter's a great example, right? My daughter, she was kind of following my protocols for my health and what I was doing. I was training twice a day. I'd walk twice a day. I'd do high intensity Stairmaster. Then I'd be doing like cold plunging and all that. So she started doing this stuff. And over 8 months, I saw my 20-year-old daughter like start almost put on all this inflammation. And I was like, what is going on here? Why? And she's following my lead. I'm doing this stuff. And I'm like, why doesn't she get these results? And so I did her DNA test, Joe. And it came back. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, we got to change your entire protocol. And I'm like, your DNA is not my DNA. Your system is different than mine. I got to change it for you. And so I said, you got to stop training every day. I said, I only want you to lift 2 to 3 days a week. Do full body lift. I don't care. You don't need to. You're not trying to be a bodybuilder. Do full body lift. I said, you're not doing high intensity cardio anymore. You're literally doing low intensity walking twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. You are not fasting. You are literally just eating 6 times a day. 6 small meals is what I want you to eat. You're not sleeping 9 hours. You're sleeping 7 hours. And she's like, okay. She just told me she hit the 7th, 8th week mark yesterday. She's lost 20 pounds of inflammation.
Wow.
20 pounds. And that's a really sensitive topic to talk with a 20-year-old girl. Now, my daughter and I have a super close relationship that she knows who I am and I can address it and be like, honey, like what's really happening? Is there something more? And she's like, no, Dad, I'm doing everything. And she doesn't drink. She doesn't party. Like, that's not her. She's like, I go to bed and we deal I want everyone to remember this, wherever you're watching this. Stress equals fat. Period. Exclamation point. So if you have fat on your body, it's because you have stress from the way that you think. You have stress from the way that you eat. It's a stress from your environment. Thoughts, traumas, and toxins.
So if I de-stress,
that'll go down. You will lose more fat by de-stressing your body and increasing your ability to sleep than working out more, doing more cold plunges. You will actually turn your system into... It's backwards. We are backwards in this system, right? Now, again, I'm not diagnosing somebody, but if someone's got I'm not...
But you could tell from here, I'm stressed.
I can tell 100%. 100%. Because your system is red line all the time. All the time. Joe's on red line. And he seems calm. He seems his demeanor's so good. And he's really good at connecting with people. So he'll go out and he'll say, hey, look, it's so good to connect. It's so great to talk to you. Inside his brain's like, man, I got a lot of shit going. I got to do this. I got to do this. But I'm really good at connecting with you. Am I correct?
Yeah. That's 100% accurate.
That's what the DNA tells me.
Yeah. That's crazy that's like factual.
And then at night you're like, okay, you go home, you try to relax, you're like, you can't, your brain's going, then you turn on the TV and it's like your brain goes even more.
I'll turn on the TV and I'll look at the TV. I don't even know what I'm watching.
Yeah. Because you're so far in your head.
Yeah. It's same with driving home. I can't even turn on the radio.
I would bet, you don't have to say this out loud, I would bet there's moments of anxiety in your life. Now people say, well, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, that's natural. Of course it is. I'm not saying it isn't. Right? And I don't know if you deal with that or not.
Yeah.
But anxiety is not abnormal. Anxiety is not a disease. Anxiety is not a problem. If we understand that anxiety happens when these two are imbalanced, when your system is turned on too much and it can't shut off, you will have anxiety as a feedback to let you know that this part is the parasympathetic balance is not coming into play. Anxiety is not a disease. It's a feedback. We've labeled it wrong. So I would bet you are more prone. If you don't, that's great, but you are definitely more prone to that type of those types of symptoms. For sure.
Wow. Unbelievable stuff, Dr. Rewire. Unbelievable stuff. This is really next level.
Thanks, man.
This is really next level. And I mean, I think everybody needs to kind of figure this out on their own, and do this. This is a new test, obviously. The
Yeah,
brain DNA
it's
test
just we just released it about 3 months ago.
Yeah, new test. I think it's going to catch like wildfire. My stress response is low. My sleep and recovery scores also low because of my stressors. So you had a high score on this. What was your score?
On my sleep and recovery, 79%.
Wow.
So my system is reverse your system,
Yeah.
right? So for me, an evening routine is easy. 9:30, 9:45, I'm out. My girlfriend's like, you want to go watch? No, I'm done. See ya. Adios. I fall asleep. She lays there. She's like reading in bed and this and that. I hear nothing because I'm like, it's time to go. Within seconds, my body says, time out. I'm gone. And I wake up. I go to bed 9:45. I wake up at 5:45 to 6 a.m. Every day. I'll get up once to use the facilities. That's it. I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But the morning, it takes me a little bit to get going. Not really hard because I'm inspired. I've trained my brain. But before, right, I was the guy, Joe, that needed external stimulation. I smoked cigarettes. I drank like a fish. I never did drugs, so to speak. But I needed stimulants. I love EDM music, right? Anything that's going to give me energy, I need it from the outside.
Yeah.
Until I learned to wire my brain so that I get it more productively versus destructively.
And that's why I sought de-stressors. You know?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You're naturally looking for it.
Yeah.
Your innate is already saying, I need something to help me calm down from stress. But now this gives you the objective reasoning why that is.
Yeah. So what are some good de-stressors that are like sober?
That are sober, that's good. L-theanine is a great supplement for that, right? You have a supplement recommendation. Once you start taking that supplement recommendation in your test as well, that's going to help really govern your mind. It's really going to help you go to sleep. It's going to turn the system on. There's some supplements that are like New Calm is one of the ones that we use. Like some of these things, the focus, the things that we've made proprietary as well with this, you start getting these and it's going to really start setting your system up. And you start taking that around 8 o'clock at night, you're going to be able to shut that body off much easier. And what's going to happen, you watch. You're going to text me in 2 to 3 months and you're like, Doc, I'm down my body fat percentage. I did a DEXA. I'm down 2 to 3% in body fat. Because you're actually now able to recover. People think you lose weight when you exercise. No, you lose weight when you rest. You lose weight when you're breathing. You lose weight in the parasympathetic, not the sympathetic. You need the stimulation of the sympathetic, but you lose it in the parasympathetic. That's why bodybuilders know if they're trying to get on a cut, they sleep. Sleep is their hack behind it. So one of the things, L-theanine is a great thing. Meditation is always going to help you calm your mind. A warm shower before bed, right? A warm shower before your bed is super, super valuable. Sauna is very valuable, 2 to 3 times a week, not every day. I would say 2 to 3 times a week for you would be good. I would sit and say, now here's the other part of it, right? Is how you regulate your mind and the environment you're in. Being able to sit, read a book.
I can't do that.
I know. That's why I said it. I know.
I could listen to an audiobook while I'm doing something else.
Exactly. But train your brain to just sit on a Saturday afternoon, have the door open, just a nice breeze, and maybe a decaf latte for you, and just sit and train your brain to think and focus to read that book for an hour. Right?
Yeah.
People think I'm just as guilty as this. I think I've read 150 books already this year. Well, I should rephrase. I've listened to 150 books this year, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like everybody else. I want to consume information. But there's something with reading and that the calmness of reading that trains our brain. I actually don't know what the science behind that is. That allows us to just center and get into the story, which audiobooks are not doing. And I think we're losing that in our generation because of that.
Yeah. So
actually, while I'm sitting here, someone for you to follow would be good. Study a little Marcus Aurelius.
There's some authors that always reference Marcus Aurelius, but his books themselves, Marcus Aurelius, is, Stoic books like
They're
that.
very difficult to read.
Yeah.
They're very difficult to read. But I say that to you because someone like you, even if you read one page, but slowly think through that page, it's going to help zone your brain into that. Versus, I just completed 100 pages. That's not the objective I'm trying to train your brain to do. Take that one page and really just sit and think and focus and absorb into that. That would be a powerful trick.
What a cool concept. Guys, I just brought this brain DNA test is revolutionary. Just came out. I met Dr. Rewire when he released it. I'm probably one of the, while you're doing this podcast tour, one of the first people, if not the first podcaster, you're going over the results in real time.
First podcast where I'm going over the results in real time. The people are scheduled to do it, but no, you're the first one I'm actually doing it live.
This is awesome. And it's so revolutionary. It's really going to it's opened my eyes up to a whole new, to information I never knew existed. Now I'm going to just like live and die by this thing here, or try to at least.
Well, I think
it's strict, but it's,
But I think what you'll find, like even in there, right? Like it has the Rewire tools for you, right? If you look at the recommendations, it's listed out with all 5 areas of recommendations: diet, exercise, sleep, Rewire tools. If you do that Rewire tool every day, Joe, that Rewire tool that's specifically given for your brain set, you're going to find that, you know what, my day is actually different. I'm actually governing my mind differently. Of all the things, the recommendations I've given you on that thing, I will guarantee you the most powerful one is the rewiring piece.
Where's that at?
It's right in the recommendations. If you look, it's like the 4th or 5th one down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the rewiring process.
That rewire process exercise that's given for you on that is by far.
So this says list 5 challenges that you're navigating today. For each challenge, list at least one way that's helping you move forward. And then at nighttime, list who you enjoyed spending time with today.
That's right.
It's kind of like journaling.
It is, but journaling's general. Let me tell you a story. This is not that. This is literally because in the rewire process, not to go deep into that, but you're talking about an event and emotion. What we're doing is we're triggering the brain to activate different parts of it to either turn on or turn off based on the current events of the day. So you don't get stuck with baggage from the day.
But it seems to be pretty consistent. The rewiring process, this is what you want me to do every day on every pillar. Do you work on every pillar independently? It's
a good question. Depending on where the person's at, if someone's just getting the test at home and they're going through it, what I recommend is you take 2-3 months, focus on one pillar. And then you take 2-3 months to focus on another pillar. This should take you 8 months to implement all of it completely, right? Is the kind of the lifestyle change with it. Doesn't have to. Someone like me or someone like you probably is like, you know what? I already do a lot of things. I can implement a lot of these pieces at the same time. Good. If you can navigate implementing multiple pieces at the same time, do it, right? I think it's great. But if you need a little bit more time, then you take one and say, I'm going to focus on that for 2-3 months. Then I'll focus on the next one. The whole point is that you have your code. The whole thing with this is I'm trying to give people their code, getting their code to live their life based on that. Once you know your code, you can take your time implementing the changes and as time progresses. But you will see sleep get better, anxiety go down, blood sugars rebalance, blood pressure will change. Like you will see losing weight. You'll see all these things start to happen when you start implementing these things.
This has just been such an incredible show. And for myself, for those watching, for those who are now getting enlightened as to what's available, how to improve their life, their health, their overall fitness, their journey, their mindset. Now, I have my last couple questions is in regards to your own goals. Now, what's a personal goal that you have for yourself, a goal that you have for your brand, Dr. Rewire, and a goal that you have for your family?
It's a great question. Thank you. A goal for my brand is that I want to, as crazy as it sounds, I want to step foot in as many countries as I can, helping people live the healthiest life. Helping people understand this tool to be able to really create neuroflexibility for people. And there's getting many tests to people in their hands so that they learn to live their life optimized. That's really what my main mission is. That's part of the mission of the brand. I've been fortunate enough to have mentors like Damon John, who works with me directly, and Dan Fleischman, who's a friend of ours, and they're helping me do that to get it into the hands of more people because they realize the value of health more today than ever before. I think personally, my main mission, and it's interesting. It's like when I look at my own life, I look and say, how do I stay centered while I build the brand, my family, and how do I continue to do that so that I live the healthiest, longest life that I can? That's just me personally, every day. I used to set money goals, business goals, all that, and I found that made me more depressed. And instead, I can't control all of that. Those are things that are under my control. We can chase, I'll do 10 figures, 9 figures, $1 billion. Yeah, that's great. Is that going to make me feel inspired? I don't know, having this conversation with you, this makes me feel inspired. And the more I get to do this, the more I feel more fulfilled in my life. So if this radiates to the world and it goes to the world, that makes me more fulfilled. I'm not driven by money. Of course, we need money, but I'm not driven by money. Yeah. And for my family, I've got 2 amazing children, and I want them to live they want to stand on my shoulders and live their inspired life, which gives them meaning, fulfillment, and everything they want to. And, I think that I've created a system and a process for them to be able to rewire their brains and unlock and move forward whatever they want to in their life. They literally are the reasons why I built my whole protocols, because ultimately I'm a dad. And I said, if I die tomorrow, I want to make sure that I teach my kids exactly how to master their life. And I put that together. So I have that in a vault for my kids and say, whatever tool you want to go through, here it is. Everything you want to navigate, it's right here. It's a system. And so for them, it's simple. My son's a soccer player. If he wants to take it to the levels of the pros, he can. My daughter followed my footsteps at some level, and she's a neuroscientist. And, she's doing amazing things, and she wants to practice her world. But ultimately, I want them to be inspired every single day doing what it is they want to.
You didn't grow up your kids are growing up much more fortunate than you.
Yeah, for sure.
How are you instilling that same level of grit and tenacity and willingness to kind of achieve, greatness?
I don't know that I'm trying to achieve greatness. That's the difference. I think I was chasing greatness, and it made me more depressed. My first book is a book called Chasing Success. And I realized that the more I chased, the less of myself I became in the process. My family were, my dad and mom, amazing souls, amazing human beings. They came to this country with $8 in their bank account, and they built a life for me. And in Canada, I grew up in Toronto. They worked in a factory their entire life. My parents are blue collar people, and because of their hard work, I'm always humble and grateful for the work that they did to give me and my the future generations a completely different life. If my parents never left India, I wouldn't be here. There'd be no this. There'd be no test. Like, I am grateful to every. I always say in every one of my programs, if you get touched by the work that I do in my life, please say a prayer and thank my parents. It's because it's the ripple effect of them, all their years of hard work. I'm going to cry when I even talk about it. It's the ripple effect of their work that allows me to help the people in the way that I do. So how do I bring that into my kids? I keep them grateful. We have a gratitude practice in my home, and it's an exercise we do every holiday. We sit down, and if you're watching this, use this. It's one of the greatest gifts I can give anybody. Is we go around this wheel, and we go through 7 times, and everybody lists what they're grateful for, and we've got to go around 7 times. The first 2 or 3 are pretty superficial. You hit that 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, man, that room you are humbled in that room. And we do that every holiday, Christmas, and we all get together, and it's like, man. And there's this just unification of love. So gratitude is a key component in my family.
Incredible. I'm going to use so many of these practices. This has been such an informative meeting podcast for me. And we got to dive so deep. I got one last question.
Yeah.
Because you live a life of servitude, and really, like, your existence is to inspire others, and fulfill others. And when you're in front of the pearly gates, what do you think God's going to tell you?
I hope He tells me that, good job, son, you did your mission.
I love it. Dr. Rewire, if people want to get in touch with you, order the DNA test. We're going to leave a link in the video as well. But how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, Instagram is the best, of course, right? But drrewire.com. I have a seminar that I do to help people break through anything they want to in their life. We have programs, but the test is the place to start, right? You can get that right on my Instagram page if you're interested. The Dr. Rewire test is also the website to learn more about it. But it's all kind of everything Dr. Rewire is me.
Perfect. Dr. Rewire, you are the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you so much for coming and flying down to do this show. God bless you. God bless your mission. I hope you hit every single one of your goals and continue to dominate, inspire, and do God's work. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.